all of the other issues facing our families, our children, and our communities. The President knows that we cannot do so in Washington alone. Instead, we need to, and we're going to, partner with you, with faith-based and neighborhood organizations that are working every single day to solve the challenges and strengthen our nation. Now, that's not to say that the Obama administration will not do its part. In fact, in the Education Department, we are working hard every day to reverse the numbers that I just shared with you and other numbers that show that our nation is producing young people who are not equipped for the global economy and marketplace in which they will live. We are committed to producing educated persons, people who have obtained the requisite skill set needed to participate at the very highest levels of the global economy, who are able to provide for their families and contribute to the fabric of the community in which they are woven in a substantive and positive way. President Obama is committed to America leading the world again in college graduates by the year 2020, and to produce the best educated and best prepared workforce in the world. To meet those goals, the President has set aside historic funds in the Recovery Act and made an unprecedented investment in American education. $100 billion was given to the Department of Education to remake American education. That money doubled the budget of the department with the stroke of a pen and the vision of a stronger America. Half of that money has been given to states to help save educator jobs and to save schools from devastating budget cuts. And you can ask your legislators who are here the challenges they face with regard to the budget. And unfortunately, because so many of us don't go and advocate for education, that is where legislators begin to cut. And as a former one, I can tell you that. But that money that the President put into the stimulus package has saved about 350,000 educator jobs across the country. The rest of the money is being used to incentivize transformative reform in 4 fundamental areas of education. First, we are committed to helping states create world-class Common Core standards, not national standards, because what may work in Connecticut may not work in Colorado. What may work here in New Haven may not work in Nebraska. So we have asked states to step to the plate and work with each other in different groups across this country to create world-class standards. 48 states have agreed to do that, to create voluntary Common Core world-class standards. We also want assessments to accurately follow the growth of our students. Secondly, we are pushing to increase teacher quality by boosting and supporting quality teachers, rewarding excellence, and offering financial incentives to our youngest folks to make sure that they go in to teaching. We will need 200,000 new teachers over the next 5 years. That's 1 million new teachers by 2014, and we need to incentivize the best and brightest to go into the classroom. Next, the Department of Education is intent on turning around struggling schools. We know that there are about 5,000 persistently low-performing schools in this country. 2,000 of that 5,000 produce half of the dropouts in this country. If we begin to turn around those low-performing schools, we'll begin to get a handle on the dropout crisis in this country. Finally, we want to increase data systems. We want to be able to create a system that tracks student growth, that links students to their teachers, that links teachers to their colleges and principals to their schools. So you can see that the Obama administration has made a historic commitment to education and to our young people. But let's say that we spend every single dollar correctly. If we get it to the states and they create world-class standards and common sense assessments, and let's say we use those funds to reward excellence in the classroom and incentivize experienced teachers to teach in hard-to-teach subjects in hard-to-staff schools. And let's say that we use that money to turn around those 5,000 annually underperforming schools, and that we assist states in creating that robust linking data system. And we reauthorize the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, which is known as No Child Left Behind, which won't be called that when we reauthorize in the spring. Let's say that we reauthorize that act in a revolutionary way that really drives reform. It's not going to be enough. It's not going to nearly be enough. Because while politics is the art of the possible, common community service is the vehicle of the necessity. As community organizers, and as that friend of mine told me, that racial profiling bill was great, but government can't do everything. We can't reform education and prepare our children in Washington, D.C. alone. We need to partner with you to do so. We need for you all to be that vehicle to usher in necessary changes and create necessary programs to fulfill the needs in this particular community. Because the fact is, there are 8,760 hours in a year, but our kids are in school on average 1,195 and a half hours out of the year. That means 87% of the time our kids aren't in school. That out-of-school time doesn't mean that learning should cease. That out-of-school time needs to be filled with programs that many of you all are running and want to run. The secretary says that learning shouldn't stop when the afternoon bell rings. We need to extend and expand the learning time of our young people. We need to extend the learning day with after-school programs, before-school programs, weekend programs, and summer programs. We need to expand the learning environment of our children with arts and music, those things that we have had to cut because we continue to teach to the test. We need to create character development programs and efforts which create a sense of community responsibility and service with mentoring and role modeling programs. Those are the things that government can't do, but they are the things that are so valuable to the creation of a well-rounded, educated young person. The president understands that, and he also understands the importance of your work. So within that $100 billion, there is nearly $10 billion in new grants to ensure that those new grants will drive much-needed education reform in those programs outside of school. The President of the United States said to Secretary Duncan, I'm going to give you $5 billion discretionary money. It's an amount so hefty that if you add up all of the previous 8 secretaries of education that we have had in this country, you take all of their discretionary dollars, it doesn't come to within several billion dollars of what Secretary Duncan has at his disposal. Just to give you a context of how much money that is, even in Washington, D.C., Secretary Rodney Page, who was the last secretary under President George W. Bush, the last education secretary to have a full budget, that he was the one to create it, he was the one to say, this is what I want to do with the money, and here's what I want to do with it. Secretary Page had $17 million. Secretary Duncan has $5 billion. As I've said, the president has invested an unprecedented amount of money in the future of our children and in our nation, and he understands the role that you all are playing. Therefore, a portion of the Secretary's discretionary funds will be used to assist nonprofits in their role of educating the next generation. $650 million of that discretionary money has been set aside for a grant called Investing in Innovation, or I3. I3 is a competitive grant designed to improve student achievement, expand the implementation of and the investment in innovative practices that are impacting high-needs students. This groundbreaking grant will go to nonprofits who are partnering with schools and with districts. There is also another grant that's being drafted right now, we just discussed yesterday in our senior staff meeting, called Promise Neighborhood.